Trails can play an important role in creating more equitable spaces for everyone to walk, bike, and be active outside, but we must be intentional about how we create community in and around these spaces. We got to think critically about how these spaces are designed and implemented and ensure that the people most affected are at the table. I'm thrilled to welcome Kate Foster, RTC's Mid-Atlantic Director of Trail Development, to moderate this conversation with Arica of Baltimore's Urban Oasis and Valerie, an Outings leader with the national nonprofit Latino Outdoors. Welcome.
Thank you, Kevin. And welcome, Arica and Valerie. I'm excited to have both of you here and to hear more about what you're doing in your work. So the first question I'd like to ask is just to ask you if you could tell us a little bit about yourselves and about your work and maybe how it has changed your community. So let's start with Arica.
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Arica Gonzalez. I'm the Executive Director of the Urban Oasis. We're a community organization located in Baltimore, Maryland, here on the East Coast. We began in the heart of the pandemic. And so we had realized that our infrastructure was really lacking and didn't reflect the needs or the quality of the residents here. We had crumbling infrastructure, decay all around us, needles, dumping, rat infestation, you name it. This was something that was plaguing our community. During the pandemic, we realized we didn't have usable outdoor space where we could come together as a community. We solved this initially by using our front walkways and having a socially distanced meal together. We call it Sunday dinner, and we still practice this every summer. But we needed to expand and we needed to address these infrastructural issues that were plaguing us. And so we used the space that we had. We cultivated a vacant lot and dilapidated garages that had prevented us from using this outdoor space for over 30 years. We were able to restore these spaces, and now we host programming in our outdoor community space that draws hundreds of residents every time we're holding events. And this has really changed the heart of our community and has affected our mental health, our physical, our social health. And now we're also addressing our infrastructural health. So I was really excited to hear about the collaborative today and this vision for a trail network that connects us. And hopefully as we go on, I'll be able to share with you more about the response that our community has had and what it has meant for us here in Baltimore City, a historically redlined community, to talk about trails and to talk about what the incorporation of a usable outdoor space would mean for the residents of our community.
Thank you, Arica. And Valerie, how about you? Could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your work and how that work has changed your community?
Yes, hello everyone. Valerie Pasión. I use she, her, ella pronouns. I'm joining you from native land of the Piscataway, which is also Baltimore, Maryland. Thank you so much, and it is an honor to share this virtual space with Arica and with UK and all of the other panelists that we've had so far today. I am a student at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County in Geography and Environmental Systems in their graduate program, but I am joining today mainly because of my role as an outings leader for Latino Outdoors. So Latino Outdoors is a national network that works through volunteers such as myself to connect the diverse Latina communities to nature, reconnect oftentimes to nature, to each other and to avenues of change where they can see themselves as leaders and as we can see ourselves, I should say, as stewards, no matter where we may have been born or however we came into the lands that we are occupying now, no matter the status, documented or undocumented, what pathways and what ways do we have potentially through trails to really appreciate that all nature that has to offer us and how we can offer back to her.
Thank you very much. So building inclusive access to the outdoors, active recreation, and active transportation is important to the work that you both do. And we know that that work starts with relationships. What advice do you have for those who are working to create trail networks for building the relationships that are crucial to making these spaces assets for the entire community? And Arica, I'll start again with you.
All righty. All right, here we go, guys. Relationships are paramount to this work. and I can't stress this enough, when we talk about connecting a nation via trails, what connects the nation should not only be infrastructure, because it will fail if all we focus on is infrastructural connection. What needs to happen in this nation is a connection that's societal, right? There needs to be a complete reconstructing of American society in order to accommodate this infrastructural change. I was just reading over Martin Luther King Jr.'s essay, A Testament of Hope. It was published posthumously, and we just celebrated MLK Day this past Monday. And he stressed the importance of this need for society to really restructure itself. Why is this so important when we're talking about trails? It's so important because trails mean different things to different people. And in American society, we've had this history of trails and the use of our outdoor space that really has left huge trauma responses in a lot of individuals. So when I think of trails, sometimes I might think of the Trail of Tears that the Native population endured. I think of the Great Migration, that where many African Americans sought to flee oppression and oppressive tactics and laws and create a space and find a space that was accommodating. I think of the Green Book that needed to be put in place so that people could understand where they might go to be safely received as they travel through this nation. I think of things like, or places like Levittown and sundown towns in our nation. And all of these things have to be addressed, because what good is creating a trail network that links coast to coast that does not allow specific people to feel safe as they travel it? Now, this is a human interaction that we're talking about. It's not a nature interaction, right? I think that we all agree that trails are amazing and necessary. We've heard from earlier panelists how important they are to growing economically, and all of the great health benefits, and how they have the opportunity to connect us with nature. But really what we need to address, I believe, is how it will allow us to connect with one another, and what it would mean for the moral compass and moral standards of American society to be able to create a network that actually connects people to people from one end of this nation to the other. And this is no small feat. When I started in my organization, we just had a 1-block radius, and we wanted to create an outdoor green space, and we needed to get 80% of homeowners to sign a petition that would allow us to enter into a lease agreement with the Department of Transportation to gate off our alley corridor and create an outdoor community gathering and green space there. And it took a while for us to door knock and to speak with the people in our community. And a lot of times we were met with disbelief. People said, well, if the government is wanting to do this for us, it will never happen. Or why would you care? And these were trauma responses, really. These are people speaking from generations of experience of what happens in minority communities, especially redline communities like ours, where we know that progress oftentimes means displacement, gentrification, inequity. And how do we address this? We need to address this by allowing people the opportunity to be stakeholders in this vision, not doing it for people, but doing it with people so that we can connect people. And I feel like that will be the true testament to this initiative as we connect people with people in this collaborative.
Arica, thank you for speaking some truth, and some important truth about the history of trails and the many layers to this work when we think about building community, and some ways that maybe haven't been prioritized historically in our infrastructure development, and even with the trails movement in terms of how we work with the community. It's crucial. Yeah. So Valerie, how about you? What advice do you have for those who are working to create trail networks for building those relationships?
Yes, thank you. And thank you so much, Arica, for sharing. I felt deeply the wish, not for framework for restorative practices and development. So thank you for sharing on that piece. I think a key element is that relationships take time and that they take a serious long-term commitment. It's more than dropping in on a community, asking them what they think, asking them for that information, for that experience for free, and then taking that information and then using it without them there afterwards. I think it means more than having surveys or roundtables, and then after getting what you need or what you want from that community and being able to build something off of that important data and information that you collected, then forgetting afterwards. So I think having that long-term from beginning to the end and after the end, always a connection to the people as much as the place is really important. How are you consulting? Who are you consulting? How are you compensating for that consultation? And what are you doing so that you are walking or biking or otherwise moving alongside a community?
Thank you, Valerie. I love what you said about people, not place. And somehow, sometimes that gets lost in the work. So important. Yeah, thank you. So my next question is just about what you've learned through this work. What's something unexpected you've learned, and how might you sum up the impact of the work that you're doing?
I'm assuming we'll start with me again. So something that I have learned, one thing that I've learned through this process is the deep need for connection with people. How if we don't connect at beyond the superficial level, we're doomed to repeat the mistakes of those who have gone before us and perpetuate the mistakes of those who have gone before us. And so I feel that learning our history, learning what has impacted the residents of our communities, and not overlooking it, not undermining what their experiences have been, but using that to tailor a space that invites them to actually utilize it. I think that is very important. And that takes effort, that takes time and energy, that takes therapy. It really just takes a lot of willpower and determination. And so I feel that just from the human component, beyond just the infrastructural change, from a human aspect, it really takes investment in learning people, hearing people, and the processes that people need to be able to understand fully what is going on. Sometimes people don't always run on the same timetable, right? Sometimes it may take one group more time to comprehend or come to a conclusion than another group, and that's okay. But letting that be okay, I think, is part of the challenge that we need to address when it comes to community development, urban development, or trail development. How do we make it so that the space that we make is for people?
Do you have just a quick follow-up, Arica? Do you have any specific ways that you have been successful doing that you would love, that you would be willing to share?
Well, I'll share my personal stories of things that I have gone through here in Baltimore City. So I'll be honest, we've received a lot of pushback, and I wrote down a message that somebody had said in the chat. Dave said, I don't understand why anybody would not want connected trails. And the thought is there, why would anyone not want connected trails? Like, think of all of the benefits that a trail could bring. And I feel like this is an amazing statement and an amazing sentiment when we're looking at every community as a whole and just looking at the benefits of what trails bring. But in our community, there was severe pushback when a trail network was introduced or mentioned. And so what brought that about? So many different things, but things I had mentioned earlier, like gentrification, or not feeling like the residents of our community had a seat at the table in the planning process of this or the implementation process of this. And so there was much that I needed to learn as a resident here. And so I had called up some representatives from Rails to Trails, and I took it upon myself to go on a tour, and we toured different spaces and different paths and pedestrian paths here throughout Baltimore City so that we could see what other communities had done with their outdoor spaces. I then compiled that tour into a little video and shared with my community what I had learned, what I had seen, and we sat and we spoke about it. That's the simple answer. The reality was we sat and they laid their picket signs down next to their chairs eventually and shared ultimately their thoughts about what they had seen. But the picket signs were there, and the anger was there, and the frustration was there, and that has to be addressed. It cannot be overlooked in communities. And the space to allow that to happen needs to be okay. It needs to be prepared, and hearts need to be prepared, I think, to receive what people who have anger or who have frustrations need to communicate in order to get to the root of what's going on. And so after that workshop, we got some valuable feedback on what people would like to see, what people wouldn't like to see. And I think it allowed us to have a calmer conversation planned for the future on what could potentially happen in our historically redlined community. But it took serious effort and therapy, like I said.
And it's an ongoing process. No, but I think what you shared about how to nurture the imagination of people in the neighborhood and look at what other people have done is a great approach. And then also critical and so important and underused is creating space to hear the pain and the anger and the history underneath and around all of this. And I wonder sometimes if there's fear because it's uncomfortable. But I heard you loud and clear that it's very important to the process. Yeah, thanks, Arica. So Valerie, how about you? What is something unexpected that you've learned, and how would you sum up the impact of what you're doing?
Yes, thank you. I had to mute because if you don't know, Baltimore has sirens going most of the time. So I had to mute that for a moment, excuse me. Something unexpected, which invited me to learn more about myself as well, is precisely what Arica was sharing, that why would anybody not be behind this? Or there have, in the beginning stages of the Latino Outdoors location here in Baltimore, we were wondering, why is participation numbers low? Why would anybody not want to take advantage of this free opportunity that we have worked very hard to make accessible? Why is the participation low? And so it was unexpected at first and invited me to learn and introspect about what other priorities do our community members have, and what needs of theirs need to be met before they can do something like join us for a hike here, or what other ways are they as a whole person not being nurtured that is preventing them from engaging with us in this time and place. And so similarly, I think for the Trail Network, of course, it seems like this wonderful thing that how could anybody not support it? And it's not that people don't want to support it so much as they need to support other parts of themselves and their families first. So that was something that I would like to invite everybody as well, whatever capacity you're engaging with for the TrailNation Collaborative, is evaluating your own privileges and your proximities to power that allow you to engage in the way that you are, and have it that way, sort of relatively looking at the other capacities that other people are able to give themselves to this project.
Thank you, Valerie. Sometimes we can get so laser focused on the trail, right, that it's helpful to zoom out and look at there's this whole ecosystem around it in people's lives. Yeah, thank you for reminding us about that. So I want to ask a question that came from one of our participants. And this is the question. So this person is looking for strategies to get city planning people to be accountable to the community. So whichever, does one of you want to take a stab at that first?
I'll go for it. I think we have a pattern.
Thank you, Arica.
I'll jump on it. So I'm still in this process. So I'll say that first. But one thing that I was hearing in the beginning of our process and speaking with the residents of my community was that they felt they did not have a seat at the table. And so what we did instead at the Urban Oasis was say, well, if somebody won't give us a seat at their table, why don't we bring out our table and invite them to sit here? And that's sort of what our workshop was, right? And so we did have representatives from the city and our planning department come out, and we invited them out to listen in on that workshop and to be a part of that. And I feel that that space is okay for us to create a table, for us to create an opening and saying, this is what the community has prepared, come out and be a part of it. So it sort of allows the city officials to have the opportunity to take part in resident-led initiatives that might pertain, or resident-led educational opportunities that would affect the city overall and city planning. So my advice, at least from my experience thus far, would be that it would be okay to invite the city and the Department of Planning to come out to your initiative in order to let them hear your voice and then receive their input.
Great. Yeah. Have them come be in your space, your neighborhood, your community. Yep. Thank you. Valerie, how about you? Do you have any suggestions for how to hold city planning people accountable?
Yeah, I think it is important for us to connect the community to who the city planning people even are. A lot of times there is such a great disconnect that we don't know the name, we don't know the face. And so putting it in a more humanized way, that it is not just like an invisible force that is controlling these things, but they're humans that you have, you can have communication with, is important as well, I think, for sort of making it a reality and making it seem a bit more in touch. And I really like this idea of not always being the ones to go to them, but inviting them to show that they care in the community by showing up.
Thank you. Yep. We don't always have to bring the community into City Hall. We can bring City Hall into the community. Love it. Thank you so much. Any last words for our participants about the work that you're doing, and in particular about the relationship piece?
I would just like to say I'm very excited for this trail network, just on a personal level. There's much that still has to be worked out between our community and what it will look like within our community. But on a personal level, I feel that we are really at the brink of a space and creating a space that really will unite Americans and allow us to feel more connected with this place we call home. I'm hoping that we can bridge many gaps and divides, and that this would be taken as an opportunity for us to connect not only with nature, like I said, but with each other and the different cultures and people who make up this space.
Thank you, Arica. Valerie, any last words?
Yeah, just I feel immense gratitude for everybody that has shared words today, either in the chat or through a panel. And I can't wait to see what it turns into and what it can be with all of us together. So thank you so much, and I'll see you on the trail.
Well, a huge thanks to you both for joining us today and for this thoughtful conversation about where we are and what needs to be done to support and build community connections with trails and making these connections accessible for everyone.